Hey everyone, my name is Yulia Gumnuk, and this week's topic is transportation and the shaping of cities. For my reading of the day presentation, I read an article by Robert Cervero. Cervero is an educator on sustainable transportation policy and planning at UC Berkeley. This article was published in 2006, and in it he discusses examples of TOD plans that different cities utilized to promote urbanism. So what is TOD? TOD stands for Transit-Oriented Development, and it's actually a topic we'll look more into later on in the semester, and we'll see more of Cervero's articles during that week. But for now, we need to know that it's about developing transit systems like trains and buses, as well as promoting cycling and walking instead of the use of private cars. It kind of seems to be the opposite of what we discussed with Frank Wright last week, when he wanted to create communities with only the use of private cars. And many of you mentioned in the Discord discussion that the negatives of Wright's ideas is that it would increase emissions. TOD plans seem to be more eco-friendly, and they would focus on creating sustainable cities. Throughout the article, Cervero gives us a few examples of TOD plans from different cities. He says that TOD is well developed in Europe, especially in Scandinavian countries. The first example that he gives is from Copenhagen, Denmark. It's called the Finger Plan. And the finger plan can be seen in this picture right here. You can see the layout of the rail system looking like a hand, with the densest center being the palm and lines going out like fingers into the outer skirts of the city. This promotes growth along the roads of the rail infrastructure. You can also see that in between the fingers, there's spaces that are less dense. This is because these are green spaces, which are either agricultural areas or natural habitats, and they were designed to be specifically away from districts of urban growth. This image right here is a current transit map of Copenhagen. You can see the density of the lines coming in together at the center, as well as going out into different lines of 5 axes. Cervero's second plan is also from a Scandinavian country. This TOD plan was utilized by Stockholm, Sweden, and it's called the Planetary Cluster Plan. This system, similar to the finger plan, created directional flow balance in Stockholm, meaning that during rush hour, about 50% of people would be going in one direction, while the other 50 would be going in the other direction. This would reduce traveling time as well as traffic. This image right here is the transit map of the Stockholm rail system. You can see that it has many lines that come out from the center and go in every direction like vines. Cervero mentions that Asian city transit has always been a big factor in its history. He says that Singapore embraced Scandinavian TOD planning. It would allow for the successful urbanization of the island, both economically and environmentally. The name of the TOD plan that Singapore utilized is the Constellation Plan. The system allows for new towns to orbit around the core connected by radial corridors of the rail transit. This transit system allows them to have interconnected towns and allows for most people to commute to the central business district using the rail corridors. In both the Scandinavian examples and the Singapore example, this planning created a two-way travel flow that spread travel demand more evenly throughout the day. So when Singapore became serious about their transit-first system, they introduced policies for car owners. These policies made car owners pay fees for either buying a car, owning a car, or even using it during rush hours. This money would usually go forward towards maintenance of roads. And in 2006, Singapore had under 3% of annual vehicle population growth. That's very low for a city with such a high income level. This is the current rail transit map in Singapore. You can see the yellow line being a circular line that goes around the center of the city. All of the other lines go through the center and out into the outskirts of the city. So moving on to the next example that Cervero talks about in the article, we finally have an example from the US. US is actually known as one of the world's most car-dependent countries, and you don't see that many TOD projects being executed in here, but in 2006, Cervero said that there were over 100 being executed. One project that Cervero notes is the Bullseye vision in Arlington County, Virginia. This system can be seen on the image provided, and it depends on the Metro Orange line of the Washington Metro system that was transformed to promote mid to high-rise tower development. It used to be more like dormant neighborhoods, but with the development of this train system, they become more urbanized. And these new buildings have multiple purposes. They were either used as office space or retail space, and even residential space. So with the introduction of this plan, it resulted in the county being one of the top with the highest rate of transit usage in Washington, D.C. And around 40% of the Metro Rail corridor is actual residential space. And commuters go to work using this system. This plan allowed for the balancing of jobs and housing growth. And it also produced a two-way travel flow, similar to the other rail systems that were mentioned before. So similar to those, this travel flow means that during rush hour, stations are full of both trains and buses, and they route in both directions. So this decreases both travel time and traffic. The first three TOD plans that we discussed were all rail systems. This Virginia TOD plan is a combination of both rail and bus system, and the last two that we will discuss are both bus systems. So the first that Cervero discusses is in Bogota, Colombia. It's called the Transmilenio. And Bogota is greatly recognized for this efficient bus rapid transit system. It's seen as a big accomplishment for the city because the city does come across to have a few economic and civil problems. Not only is Bogota putting a lot of effort into their bus system, they also put effort into their pedestrian and bicycle access to their stations. Having such a vast system resulted in thousands of civilians riding the bus hourly, and this has also resulted in a decrease in traffic and travel time due to few restrictions made in regards to cars, similar to how Singapore had their policies. Bogota has seen a decrease by 93% in road accidents and is also seen a decrease in air pollution. So though these seem like really positive things, Cervero does question why Bogota puts so much funds into their bus and cyclist systems. They are at risk of armed conflict, and shouldn't other stuff like healthcare and education be more prioritized? This strong on TOD is because some mayors believe that embracing smart growth planning can make a city well-functioning area, even with the dangers of like guerrilla attacks. They want to promote quality of life, and I'm not sure if I agree with this explanation, but they are putting a lot of effort, and Bogota seems to have a good use of this system. The last TOD system that Cervero discusses is also a busway system located in Curitiba, Brazil, and it is one of the most sustainable, well-managed systems in a metropolitan area. It is this city is actually one of Brazil's wealthiest cities, and its transit use rates are much higher compared to other great cities of Brazil, like Rio or São Paulo. It also has one of the cleanest air in Brazil, similar to Colombia. There are currently 6 lines with 21 stations. So compared to other TOD plans that we have discussed, this is one of the least developed. However, it is notable to mention that these stations are very well organized and are inspiring other cities to create similar designs to their bus stations. In conclusion, all of these examples that Cervero discusses in the text show that TOD is a leading way to having a sustainable form of urbanism. We can conclude that developed transit systems correlate with increase in air quality, decrease in travel time and road accidents, as well as growth in housing and office space. These cities are all examples of how dependence on a certain type of transportation method shapes the urban development along the roads of transit lines. So these are my resources, and this is it for today. Thank you all.